and that's all you had.
Yeah.
And then the response is, you don't want to, like, I don't feel like you really open up to me. I don't really feel like you really trust me with how you feel. Right. And I don't understand that. Like, when I come in and I tell you about my day, then the comparison, right? I come in and I tell you about my day. I tell you, like, what happened at the office. I tell you what happened here. I tell you about the conversations. I go in my natural disposition of explanation of how I function, because I have the freedom to exercise that everywhere. So now, not only are you fighting the reality of your experience, but now you're fighting the assumption that you never said was true or about it.
And to escape that, I'll just go, you know what? How was your day?
Yeah.
Hey guys, Samura Jones here, your emotional restoration coach, and welcome back to the Shattered Whole podcast, where we talk, feel, and heal by doing what? Acknowledging our hurt, claiming our healing, and living as a new creation. As always, I'm excited, I am thrilled, and I am honored to be before you with this conversation that we are about to get into. I do not take for granted that you have clicked on this episode, that you have downloaded, that you are streaming this episode on any platform that you have found it. And I'm just grateful that you're here. So welcome. And today's episode, I'm always excited. Like that's a no-brainer. I'm always excited, but I am so grateful to have the men that are in my life who have been gracious enough to talk on this episode. Some a little forced, but I think it was so important to participate in this conversation. So I'm going to introduce them, whether they like it or not. So I'm like, first and foremost, Hey.
What's up?
Hey.
What's up?
Hey, this is my husband. Yes. Mr. Leighton Jones, also known as DJ LeightonJ. You can find him on all of the platforms, doing his thing, bringing in the music, changing lives. One scratch at a time.
Yeah.
All right, that was a little cheesy, but I'm going to go in for
it's
it.
Fun. I love it. I thought it was good. I'm going to cut this audio and use it for drops.
And listen, because we multitask around here, okay? Nothing drops. Nothing drops. And then next to me, who is no stranger to Shattered Whole. Don't shake your head already. Like, don't start. My brother, my friend, Mr. Keith Sawyer. And then behind the scenes, my producer, the one who makes it all happen, the one who is the creator for the creation of the show. And I am always blessed that he is helping, sewing, loving, and his voice will be like the Wizard of Oz in the background a little bit as we talk, because he is also a man of action, a man of God, and so much more. I will introduce to you Mr.
Shaka Creative.
Mr. Shaka. Big boss. The big boss. And if you hear me call him Greg, it's just by accident.
Stop giving up my government.
Sorry. Say hi to the folks.
Hi, folks.
So listen, I knew that I wanted to do this episode for this season before I knew what other episodes I wanted to do for the season. And this one is I titled it, and who knows what it will develop into, but I titled this one An Unheard Heart. I am the person who is on social media, who's in conferences and having conversations with a lot of people, and a lot of times the conversation is assumed because I'm dealing with healing or because I'm dealing with emotional intelligence that it's only geared towards women, as if men don't feel nothing. Oh. And I find it odd almost and hurtful in a lot of ways of how ignored and unincluded the heart of a man is with a lot of different situations that we all encounter in this thing called life. One of them being that conversations that I've had with folks, and I tell them what they do, and they're just like, "Oh my God, like women just need something like that right now," and I'm just like, women have been oppressed in a number of different ways, and I'm very, very clear on that. But if I didn't tell you that this was just for women, then that means that I'm talking about the shattered whole or the heart of humanity, which includes men and women. I don't isolate the process to only be about women. Now, some people are called to minister to women in a particular way, but I think it is valuable to hear from everyone who is experiencing this thing called life, which is men and women, and understanding like their hearts. And one of the things that I've seen and heard so often is that we want to hear about how you provide. Right. We want to hear about what you're financially, contribute to the table. We want to hear about task. You will do what work you will do in order to get things done. But not often enough is your emotional health, stability, or your emotional connection thought about. Mm-hmm. Like, does that even sound like natural language for either one of you?
It's funny. I'll go first. It doesn't, because of how we were brought up. You know what I mean? Like societal influences and things like that. It's not until I got past 3 decades. You know what I mean? Where I started to see, hey, you know what? It's okay for, you as a man to have emotions too, and it's valid, and it wasn't said in a cheesy way, because it used to be like jokes, you know what I mean? Like comedians would say it. I remember like stand-up comedians and stuff like that. They would say stuff like, oh, I'm a man, I feel too, and I have a heart and stuff like that, and we get a good laugh out of it. But now it's legit. It's not like I really do have like an issue, or I do feel. So it's not until now. I'm grateful, but it's not until now.
Not until now, yeah. Which is really, really late in the game. But I'm glad that there's a start point, right? Yeah. I'm glad that you didn't go the rest of your life thinking that you didn't have that feelings weren't for you to feel out loud.
Yeah. Right. I don't think it's late. I think it's late, but it's actually on time, because I don't know if I was ready for this 5-10 years ago.
Okay.
So I think it makes sense right now, because right now I can actually communicate in this space and do it well. Like I've been, like my therapist goes, you're great on communicating emotionally. And I go, wow. So I got a little bit of a leg up because I'm married. I'm married to you, you know what I mean? And I like to think I take notes, but I think it's a good place now to be. So, yeah.
That's dope. For me, I agree, and it's uncommon. But I would take a different kind of approach. We weren't allowed to either, right? And we knew that before we knew the latter. So it is a great time, and it's a great season and stuff like that. Like decide to provoke change and to decide to be heard and to be asked to be heard as well, because we didn't have the allowance for it.
That's good.
And I think it's interesting that you said to be asked to be heard, right? Asking permission to invite yourself into conversations and spaces where you should have already been included.
Right.
And I think it's interesting that a responsibility, I would say, as provider, responsibility as the one who is the leader of the family, if you even have that belief mechanism, right, that the check-in for how your heart is doing should be a natural mandate. Right? I mean, but it
should be, right?
It should be, right?
It should be.
It should be, and it's not. And I almost wondered how it got to like this level of space where the continuous at this point is the only time that it seems to be highlighted that about a man's heart is in extremes. Mm-hmm. It's never just like his day to day and his human life and his, right, whatever. Yeah. It's always in extremes. It's usually an extreme anger.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He's gotten to the point where, there's like domestic violence, or there is, where he's yelling, he's screaming, he's always upset, and he's cocky, he's overconfident. Like, right, all of these descriptions or all of these statements of actions when the emotional state has gotten to a negative extreme.
Right. Right.
And then if you are spoken about in a positive light with your kids per se, right, it is a shock, or you're a unicorn, mm-hmm, if you are a father who is emotionally connected and expressive, like with your children, right. So I'm like, how do you navigate walking in your humanity emotionally? Or do you even have? Have you done it?
Yeah, I mean, navigating it, with our son it's like new territory for me, it's been new territory because I've been doing it for a while, because my dad, it's funny, I grew up idolizing my dad because he was the strong, silent type with the big personality that made all the jokes, you know what I mean, and is the life of the party still. Shout out to Dad. But, so I learned from that, and then I realized I didn't have no place with my son. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because he needs practical lessons, you know what I mean? And he needs to know how to do, certain things. And I'm looking at him and I'm just like, okay, all right, I got to pick from a different place. Right, so I got to pick from a totally different place. So for me, that place was rooted biblically, right? Mm-hmm. And then a lot of I guess you would call it philosophical things, right? But and I later learned that was also biblical, but at the time I didn't know. So I had to kind of pull from commonsensical things. I had to do away with a lot of stuff that was expected. Hey, listen, a man does this and a man does that. All right, let's put that stuff to rest for a second, mm-hmm, and let's get into it. How's he going to function as a human being? So that helped me to navigate. That just helped me to navigate. But it's really not a clear-cut kind of thing.
I noticed how you went into, and I know that I touched on it, because I'm like, the times that you see the expression or the demonstration in parenthood, extreme fits of anger, or dominating in business, right? But you spoke about, well, I couldn't be this particular way because of the needs of our son, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. But what about the needs of you? How are you? Look, yeah, you're how? Yeah. I'm like, how are you navigating the needs for yourself as a man who, one, recognizes that the only way that you are mentally really healthy is to understand how you're feeling, yeah, and being able to communicate that?
it's like learning a new language. It's like me learning to speak, you know what I mean, like a different language, because I've never done this. You know, I never had to do it before. Like for so long, it's been like go do whatever, you know, and then if you break down, then you take care of yourself.
Right.
But otherwise, keep going.
Right.
Like, what do you mean?
No.
So this is me having to learn how to ride a bike that only like 300 men have, you know what I mean, or something like that. Like it's very exclusive. This is totally different. So I have to learn how to do this all over. And yeah, so for me, that's a different. It's a whole new language. I don't know.
Yeah, it's rough. They say that there's a season for everything, right? So like we're in a season of knowing that it is important to do the maintenance. Like we like you said, like we're used to getting the repairs done after the breakdown.
Yeah.
But how important it is now that we know, like when you know better, you do better. How much maintenance that we need to take. You know, they say a car, you know, every 3,000 miles you're supposed to do like an oil change, and sometimes depending on where you're from, it's like, for what? My car works perfectly fine. It's still good. It's oil inside of it. Like it moves. I'm gonna put gas in it, and I'm paying my insurance. I'm gonna keep it moving.
And that oil burnt.
Yeah, oil's burnt, and it changes your engine. And now when you decide that you want to have longevity with this vehicle, now it doesn't perform in its elder years the way that it should have, because you didn't do the early maintenance.
And what's more, for like, it's actually supposed to be a regular thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's supposed to, you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
us expressing ourselves is supposed to happen on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Almost like an everyday, whatever, 24/7 kind of thing. Like, if you feel it, then say it. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, you know what? This is an issue, or speak up about it, or whatever.
Right.
Not even just like kind of, you know, like we're used to wait until it breaks down. No, don't wait until it breaks down. So now we're being, what is it? Proactive.
Proactive.
Instead of
reactive.
And so but making the proactive my natural, so like how I'm moving my arm, that's the same way, the same natural way. Be proactive, the same exact way.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like, my producer's laughing at me, but I'm like, I love that there is a cognitive understanding of that, though, right? Because often there is, if you're looking at, and I say social media a lot, but one, because you're watching me on social media. I was like, you're listening to me on social media. Don't worry about rocking the boat, because we're here. I was like, if you're watching social media, you hear these terms that goes out that says things like, oh, if he is overly kind or overly sensitive, or, you know, if he cries, or if he's this, then he's, they call him a simp. Right? Like there's a softness that's associated with feeling your feelings, expressing them, communicating them, telling someone that, hey, that I love you, and then walking that out, letting you know that, hey, I've been hurt. And I feel when there is a freedom, almost to an abusive nature, for a woman to be able to do it. And if you do it on a basic level, there is a question of your masculinity. Which I think is absolutely asinine.
It's insane.
Is absolutely insane to think that if a person is expressing their heart to you, communicating to you how they're feeling, how they're not feeling, what they're confused about, in the same not in the same manner, because we function differently, right? I was like, but the same intention of understanding and communication, and yet I'm not allowed to do that. But then there is a complaint.
Well, I was about to go there.
Oh, no, go please. No, go ahead, please.
Please.
Because nobody thinks about the ripples that comes behind it. Everybody wants to throw and cast a stone, and it's fine. Your opinion could be a stone, your situation could be a stone, but you got to think about the ripple effects. So to use the example of the simp situation, that's kind of like trending, right? But everything toxic is trending. Right?
Come on, facts.
But if a man that wants to express himself is a simp, opens up his heart, tell you how he feels, right? Because again, the room to be able to do that, right? We're like muted in that aspect. You, on the flip side, when you need or you want the support, the emotional support, you created the barriers to stop you from even getting what your heart desires or what you need anyway. You didn't allow us to practice it regularly, right? Because if we practice it, if we do that maintenance, if we exhaust, if we tell you how we feel, if we tell you we had a hard day and we want to lay on your lap possibly and watch a movie, you know what I mean? Or rather than that, then something is wrong.
Right. Yeah.
But then when you want to lay on our lap, because what you taught us is that we always have to be hard. We always have to be jagged. We always have to be stiff. We have to all, and then you're like, why don't you soften up? And it's like, you didn't give me the room to be able to exercise that.
That is it's like, I had to, it was, for me, it was like innate, like it rose up out of me. I had to take exception to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I only get to be soft with you, right? Okay, now we're in our marriage, everyone else kind of sees the outer shell, and it's not a good way to function. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have like, friends of the family, stuff like that. They should be able to see, like genuine Leighton, right? Like the actual, like, Leighton, like, the essence of Leighton, like Leighton working through, his issues, Leighton, at his best, Leighton at his worst. You see what I'm saying? That's what I do. Whenever I see Keith, I say, hey, what's up? How you feeling? How's your day going? Right. Because, and that's kind of the equivalent of, for me and him, that's the equivalent of like, how's your heart?
Right. Absolutely.
Because be super honest in that moment. Because when he first did it, I was like, you know what? The day's not going too, like it's not going too well. Or if it was,
it was going phenomenal.
It's going phenomenal. I did this, that, and the third. I do the same thing with Greg. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll be like, hey, what's up? And I'll hear it in his voice. I'll be like, hey. He was like, and I'm like, okay, I know what's going on. Right. But that's kind of like the norm. That's how it should be, right? It should be like that. It shouldn't be, hey, how you doing? It's okay. Well, it's going to get better. You'll be all right. You know what I'm saying? To get a tap on the shoulder. Right. That's like the yesteryear kind of, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so now it's moving ahead like, no.
Right.
And then even to that, what he said, how we encounter each other as men, because that was very specific to how men share their emotions with each other.
Yeah.
We don't have that same language with women, so women don't think we're expressive. And so because we use the same language, we might say, it was the reaction is, why don't you want to talk to me?
Yeah.
Why are you not expressing yourself? Well, that's all I had, the residual energy left to actually express to you. I'm not expressing myself, and now the little bit of energy that I have, you just took away from me, and now I don't even want to talk about it. And I just tried to give you, your next question doesn't have to be why you're not expressing yourself, but what is it that made your day? And then I might have something else to say. But now when you go, why are you always just saying, like, is that your only response? Is that only you get that litany of things that comes after that. Yeah. Even whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a work environment, whether it's other people you have around you, that dynamic between men, you can get away with that language, but it's not so. You can't have that same level of transparency, or what we assume is transparency on our end, because it's viewed as something else on the other side, and so it's not as even. I work with women, and I have to be mindful that my way of receiving information and giving it back out has to have an emotional attachment to it, because I can't just go 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
that's not okay.
We're like, what's okay. 1A? What's 1B?
Well, why are you talking? Well, okay, but you should have. No, I'm just saying 1, 2, 3.
Right.
But
It sounds harsh.
And it feels and it's something more behind it.
Yeah.
Maybe and now as a man you have to go, okay, how do I be myself but not make this person feel like I'm emotionally just ignoring how they're feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's such a loaded weight when you don't have enough energy to kind of talk to yourself. So
I was about to say that sounds exhausting.
Because you're throttling.
About the weight and the exhausting part of it. When he just said, like, gave an example about being depleted, like even coming to the table, exhausting the little bit that he has and being depleted, right? And sometimes we feel like that because we get beat up.
Yeah.
We all get beat up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we also don't have the space to be able to express how we beat up. So we got to take the bruises and the beatings, and we also got to be silent about it, kind of thing. Because if we're not, then we are simply everything we just talked about, right? But it doesn't change the fact that we still was beat up, right? So they're not looking at you like you're a warrior, like you went through some things and you still standing. It's kind of like, we live in a different society now where it's kind of like, it's just weird. But to compliment what he just said, when you're exhausted, so we giving you the little bit less. What sometimes is not fair to our partners and our spouse and our relationships, because nobody really wants like the fumes or the leftovers or the last, and like it doesn't feel good. So I'm very conscious of that in my relationship, my mean relationships as well. That's why meaningful relationships are important, because you do more. But then I have to give you the little bit that I have left, and rather than you hearing my heart, even though it might have seemed a little bit hard, because maybe it is hard for whatever reason, you want me to spend the rest of my energy fighting. So what more? So why you stonewalling me? Like, why didn't you tell me about your day? I don't understand. Why you being so short with me? And it's like, I'm out of breath. I don't have it. I'm coming to you for air, and you want me to give you the rest of my breath. Like, I got to catch my breath.
This is it right here, right there.
Wow, I'm okay. Okay, my brain is firing on all cylinders.
Ladies and gentlemen, there will be a part 2, 3, and
4. So many. One, okay, I gotta just reel it back a little bit. First of all, thank you, Greg, because you corrected my mental thought without you even knowing it. Because as Leighton was talking and he was expressing how y'all check in, the first thing that my woman brain thought was, they ain't enough information? What did you... I was like, how was your day? And he was like, but he said it as if it was this heart-to-heart moment. And I'm like... You said, how's your day going, bro? And he was like, and that was our way, and we were able to really tap in. And and now my understanding was, because of the relationship that's there, I'm not just going to answer it with a generic answer. I'm going to answer it authentically.
But watch this.
Yeah.
Watch this though. So here's the funny part, right? I have two. So when I do it with my son, right? See him at the end of the school day, he comes in. So I go, so there's a relationship there. So I say, hey, how was your day? Or he'll say it to me. And then based off of the tone in which we use, I say, hey, it was okay. Or it was good. Oh, good. Let's, whatever. We can kind of read it like that. Now, let's take it to another man that I don't know, right? Somebody that I know loosely or affiliated, whatever. Say, what's up? How you doing? X, Y, Z. How's everything? You good? Yeah. Well, I'm all right. There's communication there too. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if it's because we're both men, but you can kind of glean from what's going on. If he's kind of firing on all cylinders, he's like, yo, everything is good, everything is good. I'm glad to see you. Right. Or it's, yo, everything is good. I'm holding it together, man. I'm keeping it together. You can kind of.
There was a message in there.
Yeah, there was his messages and all of that. So you can kind of glean it, and you can be like, all right, cool. You know what? All right, So what I've learned to do is, if I encounter that, all right, if he's on the lower side, how can I make things better? If I can't, then I can't. But, can I lift a chair? Can I do something? Can I get something for you? Okay, cool. If I can't, then, that's fine. But at least I see. Or sometimes I may not be able to do nothing. I may say something like, yo, I give a joke or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because that will lighten you. that gives you something. You know what I'm saying? Like there's many times, Greg shaking his head, like, we'll spend time just joking. Me and Greg have done it. We'll spend time just straight cracking. We'll crack on each other. We'll crack on like whatever, music or something like that. We'll talk about something random, and that'll loosen. That gives him a break from his day or whatever. It gives me a break from my day, right? So now I don't have that. And then it just got to, even if I have to go back into the fray, into the madness, the world, whatever it is I'm doing, I got a little break. Yeah. And that little break matters. I got to breathe.
Came up for air.
Yeah. Wow. So we got that. That right there, that's important.
We do have to recognize that we have different languages as well.
Very much
it's
so.
Straight up different
because
language.
Like I'm battling in my brain right now. Craig is laughing because I'm battling. I'm like,
Samura's like, you guys are not saying anything.
but I'm understanding how much was, first of all,
and that goes for
there is a
mad different relationships. That goes for like my 79-year-old dad to a neighbor who is like whatever younger males. That's a thing that it doesn't work for every, clearly we're all different, but it's something that we have. Yeah, it's a thing.
I'm listening to it and help me if I'm wrong, because there's a couple of things that I want to hit on. I'm just gonna go there, but what it sounds like is because you guys have not had the available space, permission, or freedom of however you want to phrase it, to be vulnerable. I mean, be open, be expressive vocally. That you guys have mastered the language of very little to say a lot to one another, even in the presence of women mostly, right? Who you can't, because I'm like, but mind you, I'm listening so intently. I'm like, what am I listening for? Like, what am I listening for? And I'm like, oh, is it the cadence of the way that he said? Is it the hesitation of it? I'm like, there's so much. There was so, I'm like, look, teach me your ways.
You're also an anomaly. You're also an anomaly. But yes, we have a Morse code.
Yeah.
And the reason that Morse code was created is so that you can communicate minimum, but with the most maximum impact in reservations, secrecy, and silence, because there's warfare against you communicating.
Oh, come on.
Jesus Christ.
Come on. So we had to evolve. We had to evolve and figure out how to communicate, because didn't know it, but we had to figure it out, because we gotta be able to relate to each other in a room full of, not even just, it's weird, just what you said, Keith, like there's a warfare there, because not even just in a room full of women, but in a room full of opposing,
in a room full of opposing ideas and things. So like you mentioned in warfare, like if we're in public, I'm not gonna sit down and talk to Leighton and Keith and be like, yo man, yesterday I had to go do X, Y, and Z and blah, 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 blah. He was like, how's your day? Man. Yeah. Listen, yesterday was yesterday, bro.
Yeah. You see, but his eyes just went.
Yeah. Right. Look. I'm studying over here.
That's it. I know what it is.
And that doesn't necessarily, because vulnerability for a man seems like, well, we were told that it was soft or, so that's not, to me, that's not me having to be extremely vulnerable. That's easy. That's a light thing for me.
That's a light thing.
It doesn't, because the way they made vulnerability seem for men is that it has to be a heavyweight. If you don't feel heavy being vulnerable, you're not really being vulnerable. And so there is this requirement that you have to feel uncomfortable when you're vulnerable. And then if I don't feel comfortable, why am I doing this? And if especially when it's not an established relationship, I'm not going to be vulnerable with you, because that requires so much of me that you may not deserve. And I didn't think you earned yet, because I just met you.
And safety.
Right.
That's real.
Again, is it safe?
Safety, warfare. So we're using that coded language.
Absolutely. Like, is it safe to be vulnerable with you? And does my vulnerability have to emote itself like yours in order for it to be counted as vulnerable?
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, listen.
Good luck.
It's so, listen.
That's facts. Listen.
Like, listen. And then I want to touch on something else that actually y'all all said, but I think Greg had drove it home. If I finally get to the place where I say something to you, right, and what I say to you, you have demonstrated is not enough, or to your standard of desired of how you want me to then express it, then I'm spending, as you said, the rest of the energy that I have to do it. So now, and I'm listening, and I'm like, so now I can't come to you with my reality because there's no space for it. Right. And then the little bit of space that I've had, because I'm coming out of the war of the day.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm coming out of the war of the day to then have this conversation with you, and you say, hey, how was your day? Going, and she goes, and you go, it was all right, but it was the day. And that's all you had. Yeah. And then the response is, you don't want to, like, I don't feel like you really open up to me. I don't really feel like you really trust me with how you feel. Right. And I don't understand that. Like, when I come in and I tell you about my day, then the comparison, right? I come in and I tell you about my day. I tell you, like, what happened at the office. I tell you what happened here. I tell you about the conversations. I go in my natural disposition of explanation of how I function, because I have the freedom to exercise that everywhere. Right. So now, not only are you fighting the reality of your experience, but now you're fighting the assumption that you never said was true or about it.
And to escape that, I'll just go, you know what? How was your day?
Yeah. I've been guilty.
What happened?
I've been guilty of that for years.
What happened with you? You sure everything's okay?
I will turn it around in a heartbeat.
I'm good. How are you?
In a heartbeat.
Yeah, absolutely. All the time. Heartbeat. You can go through my text message threads and it'll be like, how was your day? I'm like, my day was fine. How was yours?
Right. One sentence.
Automatically.
That's it. So
it's probably pre-populated. My phone types it for me.
You say so much.
It is. But what we don't want to do is like come out of. I mean, and again, it doesn't mean that it came from a good place. It's just we're talking about like the survival portion of the moment, and if we could deal with the survival, then we can to live better later, right? Because the warfare is not going to be forever. You're always going to be in a battle and a fight, but you win and lose battles, but you win in the war. We don't want to talk about the battle that we just came through while we're taking off our armor, right? So give you a visual. We're taking off our armor. We came home. It's supposed to be a safe place. Or we came wherever and it's supposed to be a safe place. Sometimes we don't want to take off our chest plate and then you see dings on it and you're like, so where did that come from? Right. So how was that? Because we now, not only are we trying to forget the war that we just came out of, you want us to relive it, to express it to you in a matter that you're going to understand it, but you're making us, that is like trauma.
I was about to say, so that's a form of trauma.
It's trauma.
So we want to, it's almost like we come home, whether it's like girlfriend, significant other, wife, right? We want to, we talked about it, I don't even remember the escapism.
Yeah.
This is what I was talking about. I wasn't talking about what you was talking about, but so for y'all, and so escape, so I'm talking to her. Listen, I'm talking to her.
Proceed.
Listen, and she's like, man, I don't want to like fall victim to escapism. And I was like, oh, but escapism ain't bad. And she was like, she was like, no, it's crazy.
I was like, no.
She was like, it's crazy. You don't want to like fall into it. And I was like, no. And then as she talked, I was like, okay, we're on two different wavelengths. It's fine.
We sure were.
I'm like, at some point I'll get a chance, or maybe not. Like I'll just understand. No. Just like I understand, at some point I'll get a chance to correct it, or maybe not, and it's fine. But this is what I was talking about. Like it's like escape. Like we had one reality our whole day, one way. So now we have the person that we can be vulnerable with. It's another reality, right? So now we get to kind of have that reality with you. All right, what you cook and so forth or whatever. You know what I mean? And how was your day? And that's crazy. She did what? X, Y, Z. And then eventually we may take, right? We might talk about, this chink in the armor came from X, Y, Z. And this one came from, so that's two things for the day if you're lucky. Right. Right? And then that you begin to build up the language of transparency and vulnerability.
Right.
What Greg was talking about, like I might not be comfortable doing it, but now you're speaking we're communicating in the same wavelength. Right. So now, okay, we can go there. And you're like, oh, that's crazy. And then we're beginning to relate to each other. But if in Greg's example, if you go to, why don't you open up to me? Then we've closed off. We might spend the rest of the evening with the armor on.
I want you to remind me about this closed off thing, because I'm gonna give something like a PSA in a minute about me personally and about relationships.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that I want to stay here, but I do want to express a lot of things that men don't get to be able to express. But when it comes to the armor situation, like if y'all just let us, people, it's not just our partners or significant others. It's period. If you just let us take off the armor, then, because we have to put it back on in 8 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours, right? And then look at those certain scratches and dings and remember what caused it. If you let us just take off the armor for a moment, then maybe we'll be more willing to talk about it. Let us tell you about our day. Because what you're not paying attention to is while you're asking what's happening, we're still wearing it. And you're not allowing us to shut it off because you're too busy on asking where did that come from, rather than paying attention that while you're asking, it's still on me. Let me take it off.
And while it may not be right, I'm going to give that caveat. While it may not be right, I'm going to respond to you like I'm in war.
Oh, man.
So you're going to go, oh, why don't you say, how about you stop pressuring me? Because I just dealt with the same pressure. I don't feel like talking right now.
And it's not fair, but it's
and I'm saying, I'm being very clear. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm not I'm not validating it. But what I'm saying is that when I'm turned to this assignment and my task is here, and if you're trying to get my attention and I'm not facing you, or like I'm not turned towards you, I'm going to respond to you like the assignment that I'm in.
Yeah.
And so if I feel like I'm in war and I'm, the outside world has beat me up enough, and I come home and the first thing you do is want to hear how they beat me up again, like they reference rehashing the trauma, or even, I know trauma's been such a culturally fun buzzword. Right. So like I feel nasty when I use it, but, but just rehashing the day, like, hey, like I now have to relive that. Not necessarily like, you don't know that I just came off the train and I had this weird encounter. And it was subtle, but I knew what it was.
Right.
And as a black man, I don't, there's words for it, but you don't really need words when I'm like, yo, bro, just so you know how they look at you. Yeah. And I can say that.
Yeah. Exactly.
But then when I come home, I have to find language for that for you, for you, or, just the opposite sex in general. I have to find language for that to explain that to you. Yeah. And so if I'm still in that zone, you might get the response that I wanted to give that person, or that I did give that person, and now you're at the tail end of it, and I'm still here. I'm still at 1,000. Yeah. And so, a moment to decompress is because I think there's a privilege that women have, and I'm not saying women are privileged, guys. So be very careful. Hold on, I'm going to mark this spot in the podcast. Mark this spot.
Safe zone.
Women. I'm not saying that women are more privileged than men, but there is a privilege that women have that when they openly emote to each other, it's well received. You can before you talk to a man, or before you talk to a significant other, or before you talk to someone of the opposite sex, there's this privilege that you can call someone of the same gender and express everything. And then by the time you express it to maybe your significant other or a male friend, or someone of the opposite sex that may be at work or somewhere else, you have this different version of it, and you're not at the extreme high that you were. And so if the first thing we have to communicate after there's a different privilege there. Like I'm not gonna run home and be like, yo, Keith, oh my God, you can't believe what happened today. Like I'm not doing that, right? Like I'm not doing that. And so, I just need a moment, give me 5 minutes. Let me change my clothes, at least come out the clothes that I have on for the day. Give me 5, let me wash my face. Give me 5 minutes, let me take 15 minutes in the bathroom and not say anything to anyone and just sit there. You know what I mean? And then when I come out and I look like I'm home now, because you can even see it. Sometimes I feel like we miss subtle nuances of people. Like we look at them and we can see they're not there, but we want to try to make them be present. Rather than allowing them the moment and be like, hey, how much time do you need?
Right. Transition time.
Don't bring me dinner when I first walk through the door. until I stepped over that saddle, I'm still kind of like in war. Like I just got here and I'm like, so it's a phenomenal thing sometimes. And it's a phenomenal blessing for a person that like wants to cater, wants to be involved and wants to know, but you can't only want to know for your gain. If it's y'all gain, if it's our gain, if it's a us gain,
right,
then that's the difference, which means that sometimes you might have to be a little bit less self in a moment, and vice versa. Come on. I may recognize when I walk through the door that she had a bad day, you know, and so I know what I'm walking into. So communication, chemistry is all important and such, and you know, weaving your own fine knit sweater together, you know, different fabrics. But
that's so it's like serving.
Absolutely.
That's serving. Like I remember when before we got married, we took our premarital course, and one of the things they asked us, they were like, "Hey, what is one of the points of purposes of marriage, or you know, what does it mean? What does it mean?" And I remember writing servanthood. Right, and at the time I was like super biblical, you know. I was like, yeah, it's how Jesus, you know, serves the church, and that's very true, right? But it's like all relationships are like serving, right? They work best when like adapt Keith, what's good, XYZ. I'm serving him in that moment. What's good, giving you good energy, all of that stuff, giving you like, you know, and kind of sharing what makes sense to, you know what I'm saying, and giving you, you know, what you can handle, vice versa. Right. So same thing. I'm serving you. I'm washing your feet, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, making you feel comfortable. Everything good. It happens when you come home. When I come home, same thing. You give me 15 minutes. I give you 15 minutes. However long we need. Right. So it's servanthood. All friendships, relationships, marriage, girlfriend, boyfriend, things like that, right? Like those, you're serving each other, really. Like it just kind of came to me. I was like, listen, it's.
And we do a bad job. I'm listen.
I am the listener.
We do a bad job at saying we need 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because. Do we really have a break? Like, do we really get to take a break? And so in our mind is like,
I don't need that break.
I can't afford to lose 15 minutes because if I then I can't do the next thing. Then the next thing won't get done, and then I'll miss out on something else, and then I'll be behind, and then all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying? And so now you have this ripple effect. Okay, I can't tell her I need 15 minutes. What is it? How do I? And that's a fault on us. Like, how do I express to anyone, hey, I need 15 minutes before I talk to you? Like I just started recently, and people get mad at me, and I'm okay with it because I really don't. I'm bad with caring a lot about people's feelings, but I have my read receipts on my phone always. Like I never take them off. Someone even said, "Why do you have them on?" Like people know when you're ignoring them. I was like, "Well, I'm not ignoring them. I just have other things to do than respond to your text message at that moment." And they go, "But you read it."
Yeah. Let me process.
But my mind isn't there to give you the response that you need. Yeah. And just because you text someone and you're expecting someone to respond so quickly, I'm not beholden to your urgency right now. I have to process what's happening. Yes. And I recently got like a text like one day and I didn't respond, and I get the same text the next day and I didn't respond for a reason. I didn't have an answer for you. Or I don't have the capacity to respond to that question.
Did you not think I saw it?
and whether you think I saw it or not, whether it says read or delivered, I'm.
Yeah, it doesn't change the result.
It doesn't change the result. Like and now you put me in. All right, I'm getting my bag. I'm not going to answer you for another day. And then I'll respond to your first text message and go, hey, man, just getting back to you.
I just want to say that's wrong. That's wrong. I don't stand for that. No, but it's real, though.
Yeah.
It's real.
Hey guys, Samura Jones here, your emotional restoration coach. I am beyond thrilled to let you know that Shattered Whole, my book, is available on Amazon right now for you to purchase. It states that it's an interactive journal with someone who understands. Who's the someone? It's me. There's no mystery. You ain't got to figure it out. It is an opportunity for me to partner with you as you are unpacking all the things that you were desiring to heal through. I'm excited to be your partner. I'm excited to be your coach. And this is the first step. So make sure that you go and you get the book. And I cannot wait to have a conversation with you outside the pages.